Well, with me now is former Prime Minister Helen Clark, who says there's no doubt the attack on Venezuela was illegal. Helen, thanks so much for joining us. The Trump administration has accused Maduro of a campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the US. If that's true, shouldn't he face justice?
The question is where he should face justice. There's any number of authoritative reports, including by one of the UN Human Rights Council mechanisms, which say that there is evidence of crimes against humanity committed by the Maduro regime in Venezuela, the way, for example, it treats political detainees. There's been extrajudicial executions, there's been torture, disappearances, and so on. That is actually a case for charges being laid at the International Criminal Court. But of course, that's not what has happened. What has happened has been a breach of international law, which has seen the US, in effect, snatch a serving leader and bring him before a US court. And what has happened is not legal under international law.
What role does the UN play here, Helen? The Security Council is set to meet tomorrow, but realistically, is there anything they can do?
Well, realistically, the US will veto any attempt at a resolution which seeks to declare that the action was illegal. But isn't this the problem with the Security Council today, that states with a veto power are voting on resolutions where they are the subject of the resolution? The other great powers, particularly Russia, China, do it regularly. So this is the problem with the way the Security Council is constructed on the 1945 settlement.
Are you concerned that this attack sets a precedent? Is Denmark right to be worried that Greenland will be next?
I think Greenland is right to be worried, because if the US was intent on taking it by force, it wouldn't even need much force. So the Danish Prime Minister is clearly trying to rally the NATO community around her. Extraordinary, really, because the US itself is far and away the biggest military power in NATO. But overall, I always get very concerned with these kinds of actions. And it very much reminds me of roughly 23 years ago, when the US, with a small number of other countries, invaded Iraq. And what our government said at the time was, this sets precedents for others to invade countries without the approval of the Security Council. Well, look what happened with Russia with two bites at Ukraine. One 2008 in Georgia, of course, earlier, then Ukraine twice, and a deadly war now that's been going for years. So these are bad precedents, and they should not be sanctioned.
So far, our government's response has been a post from Winston Peters urging all parties to act in accordance with international law. Is that enough?
Well, I think it's a good start, and it's consistent with where New Zealand would normally be on such matters. Small countries depend on international law being upheld because we really don't have the might to compete with a major power. So if you're moving towards a might is right world, this is a very uncertain, unpredictable environment for all small countries. And there are, of course, many in very different strategic circumstances to our own who may have a dominant great power or a dominant regional power close to them, which wants to interfere in their affairs. So international law is what we rely on to try to keep some kind of rule of law globally.
Interesting and very interesting times ahead. Former Prime Minister Helen Clark, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.